Welcome to the Etowah Valley.
You're listening to Etowah Valley Recordings, conversations and music from the Etowah Valley and neighboring Georgia towns.
Now, I came in about the time Collective Soul was wrapping up their Dosage album. You guys were putting the final touches on that. I lived right down the street here, and I'd run into Ed at a CVS right down the street, and he told me to come check it out. And I was totally out of music at that point. I was doing sales and things like that. So it's kind of cool to be here because this was kind of like my reintroduction back
That's
into
wild.
the scene.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Because I just saw you with them and just assumed
that
you're, part of the scenario.
Right.
Which you
Ed
were,
and I,
but,
from way back.
Yeah.
And so you guys were working on wrapping that up. Y'all had just finished up a big string arrangement with a guy. He came in and did the big string
Eddie Horst.
Yep. And you also you were a big part of the Matchbox 20 record over here, right?
Well, I wouldn't say big part. That'd be too much. But, I mean, I was in the session the whole time. I was second engineer, Pro Tools. They had another Pro Tools guy. I mean, for anyone that, knows anything about the tools and the transition, I mean, some years back when you used tape, not to get too technical, but, we are kind of talking about that. But it was one of the first crews that were recording full Pro Tools. Now, of course, Ed was as well. To see, basically, when it came out, it was most people were just using it as an editing tool instead of having to mark the tape and slice it and all that we used to have to do. You could actually do edits and stuff digitally, but the quality wasn't quite there to do multi-track recording at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But as with everything else, the technology grows and gets better. And there was a machine out called ADATs there for a minute, and they were using that. Ed was actually out in that control room. You can't really see it, so imagine. But with an ADAT machine and the remote and punching himself in.
Yes.
Because he engineered. I don't know the fans out there know that or not, but he engineered first. That's how he got going and recorded the first record. I mean, that's him.
Mm-hmm.
So when those guys came in and had a full Pro Tools rig for multi-track recording, it was pretty cool. I mean, I was part of the transition, got to see it.
You and I have gotten to know each other because of Ed and the relationship with Collective Soul, and then of course later on the Sweet Tea Project, we did all that together. That was lots of fun. What's going on with you now, and kind of what's your philosophy on work a little bit? I mean, how are you keeping yourself busy, and how do you want to keep yourself busy, and what's some of your interests right now, the direction you see yourself going?
I don't really do a lot of future thought.
And I know this about you, so.
Well, I live in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware, and that's where I grew up. About, a little south of there, but
you moved back up there.
Moved back up there to be, with my family and old friends and stuff.
How long has it been now that you've been up there?
7 years, I think.
How long were you in Atlanta when you moved down here?
15 years. Yeah, I mean, I'm still a big fan of the city. It's wonderful.
Still feels like I see you frequently enough that it doesn't feel like you really ever left.
And that's wonderful. I mean, I didn't really plan it like that, but I still get to work, with the old crews and just living in a different spot. But again, with the technology, it doesn't matter. I can mix sitting on the computer, and that's pretty much what I do now. Have people send me the files and download and mix away.
Yep,
it's wonderful.
And before you went back to Delaware, you were doing. You may still be. I don't know, but you were doing a lot of work with Jan Smith over at her studio.
Yep. Still doing stuff for her. She's really sounding good on the production end, and because of what she does, as far as vocal coaching, I mean, you kind of have your pick of the talent. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of like it might not be quite American Idol style, where you just have lots of people auditioning and trying to do it, but she gets to groom these people, teach them, and then help teach them recording and how that goes, because you can learn how to sing, and that's one part of it, but when you walk into a recording studio and you don't have the crowd, you don't have the stuff that you're used to to help you feel that energy and get you to perform. And that's what you're doing. You're performing. Yeah. All of a sudden, you're just there in front of a microphone and a couple dudes staring at you, and you want to sound like you're really giving it. And that's something to learn, and she has experience and has a studio there. So they walk them right in. This is how it's going to be, guys.
For any of you that don't know who we're speaking about, that's Jan Smith, and she's been a vocal coach for some of the biggest names in the most successful.
Mama Jan.
Most successful, however you want to look at that, people in this business. And Shawn has worked with her for many years on many projects.
Yep. Well, she came up here. That's how I met her, because when the Matchbox record was getting done here at Tree, she's Rob's vocal coach. So she came up. They go through the warm-ups and those kinds of things, for the recording. And I don't know, we hit it off then. It doesn't seem like there's a little family community of engineers and stuff down here. It's kind of a small group. But yeah, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
2000 maybe.
Wow.
Something like that.
That was back in the Justin Bieber heyday, right? Y'all were doing a lot of that stuff back then.
Well, it was way before that, I think. I'm trying to think. When did he come out? Oh,
I can't keep
7 or 8 or maybe even a little bit later than that.
Maybe so, yeah.
But yeah, she was his vocal coach, right at front, because of course we're getting sidetracked on other stories, but when he was 14, I think, the whole found him on YouTube and that kind of stuff from a guy from here. But anyway, yeah, she
and so that guy probably linked her up with him at that point.
At that age, yeah, because he obviously could sing and had talent, but no kind of formal training or whatever. And Mama Jan definitely has the rep, so that worked out. I mean, she went on the road with him for some years, and so it was a lasting relationship, I guess you'd say.
Are you doing any performing these days yourself?
Yeah, I play some acoustic music here and there with a friend of mine from back in the day. And we've been writing a little bit. We have a couple songs that we've, trying to keep it all acoustic based, keep it simple.
Are you singing?
I do some background stuff. I've never been a lead singer. I like to do backgrounds.
Chain me down before I go insane. Feel like I'm losing control. I need a straight jacket for my brain. Chain me down before I go insane. Feel like I'm losing control. I need a straight jacket for my brain. I can't sit still and I can't work.
No, I can't work.
The clock is laughing at me. Everyone says that I'll be fine, but fine is not fine with me.
I've been working overtime for way too long. If I don't get out of here, I'm gonna punch someone.
Chain me down before I go.
Man, I used to see you over at Songbird Studios working on some metal. You've got your foot in the metal.
Yep, I met the Seven Dust crew through a friend of ours, Cheney Brannon. Cheney has a relationship with that band. He's known some of the guys in there for years, and they just came in to do a writing session. They wanted to at least hear what the new songs were going to sound like before they went in to record the record, which was ended up being the Seasons record. So a few records ago. And he had a small studio over there in Songbird, the B room. Really sounded good in there. It had a old Trident board, and the control room was really small and thin. Like if you sat at the console, all you do would directly turn around, and then that's where the gear was, and then the wall right behind that. But for some reason, it really translated well in there. I mean, most of the time, like in the room that we're in now, it's pretty spacious. It sounds wonderful in here. I mean, it's a who did this one? Osberger did this room, and sounds awesome. Tree sound. I'm plugging it all the way.
Yes.
Still coming here after all these years. It's awesome. But they actually were sitting all together too. This kind of plays its way around into what we were talking about earlier with the band playing together. Since they weren't really, making a record, they just all sat in the control room with me, and Morgan was in another room. They had one room big enough to put the drums in, and that was it. So those guys can record real fast. I mean, I think we did 11 or 14 songs in 3 or 4 days, something like that. So we all hit it off really well, and that's where that relationship started. So right after that record, Seasons, then I ended up producing and engineering the next 3 studio records, as well as a live record and that Southside Double Wide that they did at Georgia Theater. Their first ever, they toured acoustically. So for a metal band, that was interesting, and it sounded great.
And so you tracked it at the Georgia Theater?
No, they, I don't know. I think it was Strine did that. Fran did the DVD, and I think he just got somebody to record the audio.
And then you mixed it
and then
over at
I
Songbird?
mixed it.
Over
I
at
think
Cheney's?
over at Cheney's other spot. So that's how I met them. So thanks, Chain, for that introduction, and another incredible group of musicians. So back to the recording live, that stuff came out really well. Now, when we went to do the records, we did it like normal, drums, and then bass, and then the guitars.
In layers.
In the layers. But then after that, I mean, well, for that next one, we were just hanging out. They were doing pre-production and writing for the next record. And I said, man, remember you guys played all together that time? And some of those songs actually ended up on their like greatest hits. 2 of the songs that didn't make the record, they ended up using just the stuff that we did in a moment's time on the record. But I said, man, next time, would you guys be cool with playing together like that? I mean, they're tight enough to do it. Because see, with the metal music, that's what makes metal music real heavy. Everything is very precise.
Hitting at the same time.
Everybody hitting at the same time.
And when there's
if there's a little leeway, you lose some of that impact. So it's for the humans to be able to do that all together is really something to see. So I talked to them, and they were down with it. So the next 2 records we did that way, where everybody was sitting in here together, just firing away,
jamming.
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah.
So the music industry's changed a lot. Just in those years that I came back into the scene, that's when it all really started getting turned kind of sideways, upside down, whatever you want to call it. The Napster, all that changed then, and the iPod, and so here we are now. And we were talking earlier. There's a bunch of here in the studio. There's lots of records and memorabilia hanging on the walls and gold record type things.
Yeah, gold and platinum records.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, Tree has turned it out here, and Shawn's always been right in the mix of all this stuff, but. It's like, do they even make those things anymore?
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's really changed a lot. And the seems now that there's no shortage of opportunities in this business. It's just it's so different.
It is. I mean, from the engineering and recording aspect, the technology, I think, is definitely made it a lot easier on everyone to record, because I don't know how many years ago we want to go to be specific, but you had to come to a studio to make your record. Money's involved, time involved, etc., etc. But now you can make quality records right at the house. I mean, we've done most the records for the Collective Soul, even the Seven Dust, that first one that we had done together. We did in a house down in Florida.
Well, and another thing we were saying earlier, as nice as Ed Roland's facility is to record in, when it comes time to mix, sometimes being in a room like this.
You can set up the stuff anywhere. You have your laptop and a good FireWire, converter, and you're off to the races. But when you're putting it together, you got to be able to hear what you're doing, correctly.
Yeah.
Headphones can help, but even headphones, are all, EQ'd differently for what people might want to hear. You know, have a lot of bottom end. And all those things affects your mixing. If you have a lot of bottom end in the headphones, you're probably mixing going to have a lot of bottom end in it.
We had a lot of fun making the Sweet Tea record.
Yeah.
We actually made 2 Sweet Tea records, but the second one we piled Ed's studio into a big rider van and drove it over to Charleston, South Carolina, and we rented a house right there on what was that street that we were on?
I don't know.
Right off of King Street, which is a main area over there, and it was great. And it's just good to get everybody away from their distractions for a couple of weeks, and we set it up in that house. And I mean, Shawn worked nonstop pretty much, but it was fun. It was fun to record like that, and we did it like that. We kind of jammed together as a group and captured some of that. And
Definitely. That's how it. I mean, that record was 2 weeks, and I would say 95% done in a 2 week period.
Yeah.
Which, again, if you think you just set the mics up and press record, you would think, oh, 2 weeks, that's plenty of time, you know?
Yeah, the songs are 3.5 minutes long.
Yeah. We always tell the joke, especially here, this is where I came up with it, because, we'd be out there answering the phones as interns and stuff. We'd be answering phones, and we would get calls all the time. Hey, I want to come do some recording, and my songs are like 4 minutes a piece. I'd want to do 5 songs, maybe like an hour a time.
Tell you what.
The other thing cool, too, because this was called Tree, we get calls all the time, people asking if, how much it was to remove trees out of the yard.
Oh, man, Paul Diaz, he is an Atlanta legend himself.
Definitely.
I mean, he started this place and did it, man. I mean, did it in a big way. And it's, like you said, continues to do it.
Yeah, it's still going after, 20 years I've known Ed, so this was here maybe a year before that.
And how many Collective Soul records have you worked on now?
Well, Dosage, and then I didn't work on Blender. They did that with Anthony Resta in a rehearsal facility.
Yep.
What, crossover, right? And then Youth, Rabbit, afterwards, See What You Started by Continuing, and then this one.
Wow.
I might have forgotten something in there. Please forgive me, Ed.
Well, he's going to have to. No, he's been, I've totally loved my relationship with Ed over these years. It's been crazy. We've done a lot of cool stuff together, and this is just a continuation of all that. But yeah, I don't know what else I want to talk about. If there's anything else you want to say, I'll do my own little bumpers, like my at home. I'll do my little intros and my outros, and add your music in.
Please edit away at all of my mumbling.
I don't think I have to. I'm just going to leave you rambling on,
Lord.
man. Let it fly.
Okay.
Let it hang natural.
Well,
is there anything else you want to talk about what you got going on, or anything you're working on, or anything you want to add to it? Any of your interests? We could talk about, whatever you want to talk about. We don't have to talk about music. We can talk about
existentialism. Well, I don't really know why we're here, guys. I ponder it on a daily basis.
Yes, you do.
If you have any insight, now is the time.
You've been listening to Etowah Valley Recordings podcast, produced in beautiful, historic downtown Cartersville, Georgia. Thanks to our special guest, Shawn Grove. You can find us on iTunes, or you can find us at EtowahValleyRecordings.com.
Etowah Valley.